On the 10th of January 2021, I went to the New South Wales Rail Transport Museum at Thermi. The museum has a variety of items relating to the railway transport history of New South Wales and Australia. If you enter the museum and make your way to the left, you get to a few old carriages that were built for the Queen's visit to New South Wales in 1954. This shows the grandeur of the Queen's travel at the time. The following carriage is a prison van. Prison vans were used from pretty much when the railways opened through to the 1950s. The museum usually has some interactive displays. However, due to COVID, these are currently not in use. Wandering outside towards the Great Train Hall, we walk down a path that pays tribute to all the different jobs that are required for the running of the railways at various times through history. Each support has some written information on each job. This massive machine was known as the Garret, named after the English gentleman who designed it. These engines were used throughout Australia and around the world to carry large loads. It was one of the last steam locomotives purchased by the New South Wales Government Railways. They actually had additional units on order, but with the advance of the diesel locomotives, it was decided to cancel the remaining orders. Talk about cattle class, this section houses a variety of livestock hauling units. The 40 class was known as the Scourge of Steam. Although it was not the first diesel locomotive unit, it was the unit that signified the end of the steam train purchases. This locomotive pulled the first train through from Sydney to Melbourne on the 14th and 15th of April 1962. It was known as the Southern Aurora. Prior to these dates, passengers, freight and anything else that had to go from Sydney to Melbourne had to change trains at Albury. New South Wales were based upon the standard gauge, whereas Victoria was based on a wide gauge railway. A standard gauge was completed in order for the Southern Aurora and other trains to make the through service to Melbourne. This old destination board is displayed. This must have been at St. Peter's. This two-car unit was known as the Silver City Comet. It would carry passengers from Sydney to Broken Hill. On the other side of the Great Train Hall, we get to the Roundhouse. This roundhouse was built so that the volunteers at the New South Wales Rail Transport Museum can work on the machines to keep them in working condition where possible. You can take the path around the back of the roundhouse and observe the work being carried out on the different trains. One of the engines that is being worked on this day was many people's favourite train, the 3801 Limited. In the 1960s, this train held the fastest time for the journey between Newcastle and Sydney. This was not beaten until the XPTs were introduced in the 1980s. Back to the Great Train Hall. This series of carriages shows the history of the Sydney suburban trains. This is one of the first diesel engines that were on the New South Wales railways, and they were brought in from the United States during the Second World War. Similar carriages to this carriage still cart molten metals around steelworks like Port Kembla. The New South Wales Transport Museum has multiple places for people to sit and relax, and perhaps eat a pre-prepared lunch. This little bus once drove around the railways, paying each employee their right wages. This display shows what a post office mail van looked like when mail was sent through the railway.
We're sort of like a mobile post office, eh, boss? That makes me feel we're sort of important. Oh, we are important, son. Very.
It is now time for me to head to the Thirlmere railway station for my heritage train ride. On the left is a miniature steam train ride for children, but this is now closed due to the dreaded COVID. The carriages have interesting pictures that explain the history of the carriage that was built in the 1920s. The heritage trains travel between Thirlmere and Buxton. We covered the history of Buxton in my Loop Line video.
G'day. You get up.
Oops, sorry, after you. Heritage trains are operated on Saturdays and Sundays, and sometimes on school holidays. The New South Wales Rail Museum is open every day of the week. Saturdays and Sundays from 9 AM to 5 PM, and from 10 AM to 5 PM Mondays to Fridays. The museum prices are as follows. Adults are $15, concessions are $10, and children aged 2 to 17 is $5, and infants are free. A ticket to the museum, including a train ride, adults $30, concessions $20, and children $10. Tickets are mandatory at this point in time due to COVID, and are required to be purchased from the New South Wales Transport Museum website. I'll put a link in the description. As it is summer, a heritage diesel pulls the heritage train. In cooler months, steam trains usually pull the heritage train. This is done so the embers from the steam trains will not cause bushfires. Now, I haven't covered everything that is at the New South Wales Railway Museum. I want everyone to come and experience the New South Wales Railway Museum for yourselves. Well, it's time for me to head home. I leave you with the departure of the Heritage Diesel train service leaving Thirlmere Railway Station. If you enjoyed this video, please like this video and subscribe to the Travelling Trance channel. Click that bell icon so you won't miss a video. See you next time. Bye bye.